So I'd like to welcome everyone to the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago virtual annual meeting. I absolutely wish that we were here together in person, enjoy some good food and good company. But one benefit to being virtual is that we can be very geographically inclusive and really bring together folks from all over the country and the world. It's wonderful to see that so many of you have joined the call. I already see that the chat is active, and we invite you to continue to stay active throughout the chat. So, I should say that before I begin that I am Dory McWhorter, the Chief Executive Officer at the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago for any of our new friends. And clearly these pictures were way before COVID and way before my curly hair. So, which actually would only be just the end of last year. So it's just amazing how much 2020 has definitely evolved and changed for us. We're going to do a few things today. We want to spend some time really sharing how the events of this year has impacted the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago and those that we serve, and really how we've adapted to continue maximizing our impact. And that includes, I see a number of our team members on the call, but I have to say that includes extraordinary response and support of our communities to those who have been probably most impacted by the pandemic. And it also includes us meeting the moment of our country's collective reckoning around racial justice by launching the Racial Justice League under the rallying cry of a new campaign called Until Justice Just Is. And I have to say that today, as you all know, was a very important day as we laid the warrior of John Lewis to rest today. And so I hope that many of you will get the opportunity to see the New York Times op-ed that was published. So we are actually honored that, it would have it that we are holding this discussion on the day that Mr. Lewis was laid to rest, but it is such a reminder that it really is no better way than to honor the legacy of Congressman John Lewis than for us to commit to carrying on his work to achieve racial justice. So with that high-level overview of what we want to accomplish today, I want to begin by welcoming our fearless leader of our board, Joyce Winnicke, that we are so proud that this time that the annual meeting gives us an opportunity to publicly acknowledge and recognize that we have the best board in the city of Chicago. And since I know we are geographically dispersed today, that we have the absolute best board in the country. I say that and I mean that. And so our board continues to provide such critical strategic and governance support. And I know that many of you do know our fearless leader, Joyce Winnicke. And I'm proud to say that later, Joyce and I will be doing a live Q&A with you all. And throughout the event, I see a number of folks are already in the chat, but if you do have a question, we do want you to pop that in the Q&A just so that it could cycle to the top. And we'll try to address as many of those questions as we're able to do before we close the event. So with that, I would like to welcome Joyce Winnicke to our virtual stage to begin. Thank you, Joyce. So good to see you.
Oh, Dory, great to see you. Thank you very much for that nice introduction. I love it when you say that we are the best board. I believe that too. It is an incredible group of professionals with us. And thanks to everybody who's joining us here today. I am so very proud to lead this board of directors, and especially during these difficult and disconcerting days. Dory just spoke of meeting the moment with regard to our long-standing racial justice work. I would point out that the YWCA is also meeting the moment for so many of our communities whose lives have been turned upside down by COVID-19. And I'd like to point out that this very strong and agile organization, it has adapted and expanded services to address some urgent needs around health, safety, food insecurity, and the record unemployment. So it's a privilege anytime to be part of this organization, but especially in these crucial days when the YWCA is helping to drive and really write the story around COVID-19 economic efforts and ensuring that women and people of color and other historically marginalized and underrepresented communities are included in the reshaping of our community. So I lead and represent a board of 61 members. Each one of us is dedicated to this crucial work and to the YWCA's mission of eliminating racism, empowering women, and promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. So our board members are committed to responsibility of supporting and guiding the YWCA through a growth strategy aimed not just at sustainability, but at greater impact, at reaching more people and moving more aggressively in the work to eliminate racism and empower women. In fact, over the past 7 years, the operating budget has increased 186%. And as our board of business professionals understands, that means we are delivering value to our stakeholders. And in this world, value comes in the form of increased impact. So we've strengthened and expanded services in every category of our business, in health and wellness, in education and training services, and in our economic empowerment work. We've also launched innovative initiatives evolving from a traditional social service provider to a market-driven social enterprise. Excuse me. And another point I wanted to make is that all of these, all of this growth and the new initiatives are really toward the goal of greater reach and impact. Under the leadership of our nominating committee chair, Perua Paul, and also her predecessors, Kathy Siegebrecht and Beth Hayden, we continue to curate a board of diverse leaders who bring not only passion for the mission, but also deep industry and functional expertise. So at this moment, I would like to thank and applaud the entire board of directors, as well as our board emeritus members, for wisdom, dedication, expertise, and financial support over the past fiscal year and as we embark upon fiscal year 2020. So this afternoon, it's a pleasure to welcome 12 recently elected board members, some of whom come to us through acquisitions of Streetwise and Voices for Illinois Children, two important organizations that have allowed the YWCA to broaden our range and reach. So these are our new board members. Denise DeMaio, who's Chief Audit Executive and Executive Officer for Mitsubishi UFJ Financial Group. Terry Frankevich, Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for Crown Community Development. Mercedes Garcia, Vice President, Community Relations at MasterCard. Julie Jeffson, Managing Director and Partner, Boston Consulting Group. Dr. Patricia Jones-Blessman, Pete Cadence, Chairman, the Cadence Family Foundation. Cindy McCafferty, President, and CEO, Hawthorne Strategy Group. Tracy Seward, Global Director of Innovation and Knowledge, Interim Director of Knowledge Management at Accenture. Karen Pittenger, President of Black Olive. John Reinsdorf, CEO of Frugal Pay. And Nima Verchez, Managing Director, NV Consulting Services. And finally, Bonnie Wheeler. So thank you to the 12 of you for joining the board. We look forward to getting to know you and really putting you to work to help advance the mission. Before I turn the floor back to Dory, let me ask all of you who are with us to consider how you might help further the YWCA's work. First, thanks to those of you who are already deeply committed. For others, we want more of you. Perhaps that might mean learning more about our direct services. Maybe it's becoming a YWCA member if you're not already, or exploring a partnership between the YWCA and your employer. There's so many ways. Dory mentioned Representative John Lewis. His final words speak to all of us. He wrote these just before he died, asking that they be published by the New York Times on the day of his funeral today. In part, he said, though I may not be here with you, I urge you to answer the highest calling of your heart and stand up for what you truly believe. So with that, I would say, please stand up and take action with us. Let us know, let me know if I can help you with your journey with the YWCA. And with that, I will turn the floor back to Dory.
Thank you, Joyce. I so appreciate all that you do for the YWCA and continue to be the strong leader that we need at this time. And so I'm so grateful for the board and for the leadership that you provide us on a daily basis. I don't know how much people are aware of how much time you spend. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you for saying that.
For sure. So let's begin. You know, 2020 was an amazing year for us. So you all know, so we are a July 1 fiscal year start. So June 30th ended our fiscal year 2020 as we look forward to fiscal year 21 that we're sitting in at the moment. So as Joyce mentioned in her remarks, we have been focused on growth because growth for us means impact. And the way that we see that we can support growth has absolutely been through our organic growth as well as through key partnerships like we have done this year or completed during this fiscal year with Voices for Illinois Children as well as Streetwise. We were thrilled to be able to continue our work and impact by are starting a new partnership with the Chicago Housing Authority and being a part of the Family Works program. That is so significant as we know that residents in CHA absolutely deserve the best supports, and we're here to do that. Since it's 2020, we are, as we continue to say, we're meeting the moment and ready for this moment and recognizing that census is absolutely one of those moments in our time that is absolutely critical that we get full participation and count in. We've been able to continue to see other programmatic implementations like our child and adult care food program that we call Tummy. We saw that expansion to centers where we've been able to provide additional support to child care centers and continue to think about how we support the childcare industry at this critical moment. Inclusion Chicago for us has been one of our growth strategies that has allowed us to take and leverage the years of service and information that we have around creating inclusive environments as we do the work that we do every day and really put that in a format that then is provided to our corporate partners and organizations who want to improve in this area as well. So we have just been very active this year, making sure that we continue to not only evolve our services, but expand on the work that we're doing. In the policy space, we've been proud that we've been able to strengthen our relationship. At this time, as you all are aware, there has been a lot of activity in Congress around stimulus, as well as in our state legislature. And so we've been very active in monitoring those bills, weighing in. We're so proud of our ability to support our legislators as a resource on the issues that you all care about most and the ones that we're clearly working on a daily basis. So whether it's childcare, whether it's sexual violence, whether it's the economy, the YWCA is absolutely weighing in on all of those different areas so that we can help our legislators get it as best right as we can. Lastly, I'll mention that and we've launched the Empowerment Collaborative because what we thought is that we need our service sector sisters and brothers, and we want to make sure that if we could leverage as Joyce mentioned, our growth has been significant. So to the degree that we can leverage our infrastructure to support other organizations to create the impact they're trying to have, we want to make sure that we do that. And so we launched our Empowerment Collaborative to ensure that we can create greater infrastructure support, as well as provide a platform from innovation that we hope to have a greater collective impact. So please, more to come on that. Also, we had to look internally for our organization as well, and we are in the business of human services. So we wanted to make sure that our people were also taken care of. And so we always say we have to take care of the people that take care of the people. And so many organizations talk about being trauma informed. That's one way to look at it, but we like to talk about it as having a human-centered approach. And so that's something we leaned into internally this year, because our people are critical to the services that we provide, and we want to make sure that we're doing right by our people so that they can do their best work. And so that's something that we also really concentrated on this year. And then finally, we had quite a bit of expansion from a footprint perspective. It's interesting. We were expanding our footprint and then COVID happened. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but we do know that we always have to make sure that we are where people need us. And so our geographic expansion was absolutely important to us to be able to continue to provide services in the places where people need us most. And so you see a list of what we've done here. So we expanded our our base in Woodlawn. We moved from the West Loop to the Illinois Medical District. With our expansion and partnership with Streetwise, we moved into the South Loop. We just completed a center in Roseland before the world sort of fell apart. And of course, with the Chicago Housing Authority work that we're doing, we expanded into those geographies as well. So 2020 was off to an amazing start. As I mentioned, our fiscal year begins July 1. So we were running hard, and then the world fell apart, as demonstrated by my pictures. So my team so nicely captured me pre-COVID and now me today, which I appreciate because it's all me, it's all authentic. But what's important for us is that, we saw so much change happening quickly in the marketplace, in our communities, with the onset of COVID. And the fact of the matter is, we were built for this. Like, this is what the YWCA has done for over 140 years. Whatever the challenges of the moment, we lean into that challenge. And we're so fortunate to be able to have done that in partnership, in partners with many of our supporters like you, in partnership with Chicago Community Trust and United Way of Metropolitan Chicago, as they were providing COVID response funds. We were able to leverage those resources, including with receiving PPP. I'm always getting my PPP and my PPE mixed up, but PPP, so that we could continue our work and not have to focus on layoffs, knowing that the community needed us most. And so it was our supporters like you all that leaned into this moment with us to make sure that we could continue our work. And of course, we evolved what that work looked like, because like we are today, we are in a virtual environment, and we also had to do that. So whether we couldn't go into hospitals anymore, but how we support our sexual violence survivors. So we were always pivoting and figuring out what we needed to do. As we know, pivot is the word for 2020 at this point. But I really have to thank all of you, all of our staff, all of our partners, all of our donors, all of our supporters, all of you that really made it possible for us to lean into every single thing that we are as the YWCA. And as you know, we're not done with this. We are still in the thick of it. And so it's really important that we continue to stay the course and think about how it is that we are activating during this moment, during this pandemic, during this moment of civil unrest. How are we continuing to, what I would consider, innovate and make strides in this environment? Because as you all know, many of the challenges that we were already addressing have absolutely been exacerbated during this time. So it is absolutely critical for us to make sure that we don't sort of sit back and rest, that we know that we have a lot to do. But I have been very blown away, quite frankly, with our team. So we have over 200 individuals at the YWCA from a staffing perspective. And our team, our staff, they have been so, I don't like the word busy, they have been highly engaged in making sure that we are meeting the needs of the community. So whether it's through the over $500,000 that, because again of our partners and supporters, we were able to get out to the community to provide direct cash assistance to families in need. And when we're talking about, you know, whether it's food, diapers, technology, we had a family that was working off of just phones, a family of 5 or with 5 children, working off of having them do their schoolwork off of mobile phones. And we were able to provide technology for laptops so that people could support their children in the right way, connecting essential workers with childcare. I cannot tell you, I can tell you, and some of it's written here and you could see that, but I just want you to know how our team leaned in. And I know many organizations did at this time, but I continue to say that this is exactly what the YWCA was built to do. So whether we are addressing the daily epidemics that we see and pandemics that we see, whether it's health crisis, financial crisis, we're always there. But at this moment, I'm extremely proud of everyone and how we came together to ensure that we met the needs that people were experiencing today and the new groups of people that were having these experiences. Well, nearly 50,000 meals have been distributed. Again, from a partnership perspective, whether it's the University of Chicago, the Greater Chicago Food Depository, the Greater Food Depository of North, and I get this wrong, our great friends in the northwest suburbs that supported us, World Central Kitchen, all of those great partners that allowed us to feed communities. We're out there 6 days a week. I think right now, Saturday may be the only day that we're not providing food. And of course, our volunteers that have also stood with us while we do this. And we continue. I have to say, I'm especially proud of what we're doing in this moment, because different providers of our food have to, based on what their dynamics were, may have to pull back and wasn't able to always give us the food we needed. But then we would have other supporters who stepped in and provided financial resources for us to continue the food distribution. But our team, this man that you see right here, Mr. Brian Starr, came up with the creative idea that why don't we source the food from Black caterers on the south side of Chicago. And so the fact that we were able to continue to see a ripple effect in the community by not only providing the food, but buying the food to distribute from local caterers continue to increase our impact. So when we talk about being social enterprise, it is that we are trying to solve problems any way that we can, leveraging every tool that we have available in the marketplace. And that was just such a great example of what we are continuing to do in that space. And as a small business development center, we can support those businesses as well. So we are looking to do as much as we can. And as I mentioned, leverage every tool available. So as we are addressing COVID, we get to this point where we have to stay in reimagination mode. I mentioned we're 140 years old. And so we are constantly thinking about how we grow. Of course, we reach maturity, but at that point of maturity, we need to reimagine what this business is so that we can continue to make sure that, one, we're there for the people that need us. And as long as we need to be here, and I have to say, because we are in the business of human services, as long as there's humans, we will be here. So the question is, what are we going to be providing for the betterment of those humans, and how do we do that? And so we are continuing to imagine how we stay relevant, how we serve the community, and what that needs to look like. And as you all know, these times are challenging and interesting. So we had already started to reimagine what would the world look like if we actually created an inclusive economy. So we started our economic recovery series. We started off with our own Tina Hone here, who you see pictured in the top left corner. And we started with designing an inclusive marketplace in a post-COVID world. And that is so important because as we know the world today, we have a mission of eliminating racism and empowering women for a reason, because those groups in particular have not always been thought of as we do this work. And so we thought it was important to say, hey, let's stop. We have a moment to think about what it means post-COVID to create an inclusive economy. So we continued that conversation using these all-star women as well with our next series in our economic recovery event called Women in Wealth. Because often we talk about the pay gap, but we never talk about the wealth gap. And that wealth gap is even more significant than the pay gap. And of course, pay is one way to create that, to reduce that, but also there's so many factors that influence what happens in a woman's wallet that we need to also be mindful of. And so we had the expertise of Christy Hefner, who's a longtime corporate strategist and activist, as well as Kataka Roy, who is a gender economist, and Sally Krawcheck, who is an investment professional that is focusing on gender and investing. And so we knew that we need to continue to spark people's imagination around the possibility in this moment. My great friend Therese Raleigh often says that chaos is the playground for creativity. So we know that we needed to spark a different conversation around what the economy could look like if it were inclusive of women and people of color. So just as we are having these conversations, this happens. We know the tragedy of the murder of George Floyd and the impact that it has, and that has absolutely reverberated not only in this country, around the world. And so we were already, as you all know, I don't have to tell you again, but we were in this pandemic, this health pandemic, and the issue of race yet again put itself in the forefront. And so when I say that we were built for this moment, we are built for this moment. The YWCA's mission is dedicated to eliminating racism, empowering women, and promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. When we say eliminate racism, empower women, it's more than a logo. It is who we are and what we do. So what we thought we needed to do was to further lean into this moment. So we launched our Racial Justice League and the campaign that you all hopefully have seen to some degree by now, Until Justice Just Is. Accompanying this pledge, which we hope that you continue to learn more about, we knew that we were living in this moment, that we had to not only do what we do every single day, but we needed to remind people, one, that we were actually doing the work already, and addressing the issues of systemic racism by the work that we were doing. So as we talked about the pandemic and the issues around health inequalities and health outcome inequalities, and the economic inequalities that the pandemic continued to highlight, we were already doing that work, and the rest of the world sort of caught up with us in terms of that awareness. But we also knew that we had to be able to communicate that and provide resources for people so that they could make the change that we know is so necessary. And so we are so grateful to the partners who have already stepped up as Racial Justice League members. So we have the Almeida family, the Chicago Sun-Times, Horizon Therapeutics, iHeartMedia Chicago, Impact Shares, ITW, Stake 48, Alta Beauty, VSA Partners, William Blair, CTS Impact, MasterCard, Gensler, Fifth Third Bank, Mobility Capital Finance, Paylocity, People's Gas, Shop for Ties, US Bank, Wintrust. And these are just the initial members who came in and saw the value and understood the importance of joining together so that we can collectively focus on how we truly fulfill our mission and eliminate racism. Now that part of our mission is absolutely something that needs to end, but of course we will still be in the business of human services, but the racism has to end. And we've been able to rally and get supporters. We have folks, displaying our yard signs. You may see some of these ads across our partners at Chicago Sun-Times running that full piece for us to continue to highlight the work that we're doing with the campaign. And then of course, across our social media platforms, seeing people participate and highlighting the work that we're doing and making their commitments that they are going to lean in as well and into the areas that they can make change in. I always say that each of us are a platform. And some of us have bigger platforms, some of us have smaller platforms, but we still are a platform for change. And I'm so grateful that it is through our partnership at VSA. You know I love them and needed to share this screenshot because my eyes are closed in this picture. And so I sacrificed a bad picture to show you the rest of the team because the men and women at VSA are absolutely heroes in this effort. They are the one who have done really all of our amazing marketing campaigns, but have developed Until Justice Just Is, and not just developed it, but work with us to make it what we are so proud to put in the public space so that we can use it to activate. If there will be a campaign that changes the world, this will be it. And I'm so grateful for the team at VSA. You see all of their loving and lovely faces here. As well as a couple of our colleagues, Molly Silverman and Tina Hone, who were so instrumental in getting this campaign out there and making sure not only is it the campaign, but the resources behind it that you can all access on our website that is called Until Justice Just Is. But as we talk about our work in racial justice, we're often asked, how do you all discharge that portion of your mission? First of all, it's not a portion of our mission. It is our mission. Our mission holistically, as you saw, is to eliminate racism, empower women by promoting peace, justice, dignity, and freedom for all. It is not an algebraic equation. We are not trying to do one instead of the other. We are always doing all of that mission. And so we thought it was important that we show you exactly how we think about it. And so we really, alliteration helps. And so we put our racial justice approach into what we call our 5 Ps: people, program, and services, public awareness, policy, and partnership. Often when people ask us about what are you doing in racial justice, they're really talking about public awareness, right? What is that training you're doing, or what are you doing in the public? Not recognizing that our people are on the ground doing this work against the systemic, the impact of systemic racism every single day. But absolutely, we are focused on our people. We are looking internally. As I mentioned, we are focused on taking care of people, that take care of the people. And our work that we do internally is absolutely critical to that. We need to make sure that not only that we are diversified, we are highly diversified as a staff, but what happens when you achieve that level of diversity? You want to make sure that you are absolutely tuned in and tending to the individual needs of people. And that gets to our human-centered approach. The programs and services, as I've described, at least a few of those related to how we pivoted to cope from in the COVID environment, what you see is that we have what we call Her Empowered Journey, and our services reach all of these different areas. So whether it's food and shelter, wellness, education and training, economic empowerment, and what we call a reciprocity, racial justice is a thread throughout all of it. So it's not some program that hangs out here. It is absolutely the lens by which we do all of our work that we do on a daily basis. So when I talked about geographic expansion, it's where do we put ourselves so that we can access the communities that need us, that quite frankly have been disenfranchised and disinvested because of racism. So how do we make sure that we're showing up and providing the services that folks need as we continue to address the history and the impact of systemic racism? Public awareness. We've talked about our Until Justice Just Is campaign and our Racial Justice League. But if you look at untiljusticejustice.org, what we have there are a resource library, for example, discussion guides, anti-racism discussion guides. All of these things, including our approach to social media, are what we are using to help the public engage really on their own accord. How do you go on that individual journey to advance racial justice, knowing that we are all in different spots and different places? So what we want people to do is absolutely lean into the moment and access our resources and learn and educate yourselves around the impact of systemic racism, because there's no place that we've ever, we can't say school because we only learned about slavery perhaps, but we really do need to continue to evolve our own learning and understanding. And so that's what we hope to accomplish with our Racial Justice League and with the Until Justice Just Is campaign. Then in the policy space, we are so thrilled that we continue to be a resource to legislators. Of course, you see our Senator Dick Durbin here, but we continue to be a resource to all legislators, both sides of the aisle, to make sure that they are informed by the issues that impact us the most. And so we are absolutely focused on ensuring that we are advancing policies that address the impact of racism, as well as ensuring that people have, as I mentioned, the information they need to make the decisions to understand how these issues impact people of color. I'm very proud that we are currently working on a racial justice note through our partnership with Voices for Illinois Children, to have legislators, at least starting in Illinois, to look at the impact of legislation on different racial and ethnic groups, so that people understand what they're doing by their legislative efforts. And then lastly, partnership. I mentioned the Racial Justice League. We cannot do this alone, nor should we. And so partnership matters. Workspace is an important place for people to learn. And one, we know that people have such great experiences, or can have life experiences, I should say, that are impacted sometimes in great ways, sometimes in not so great ways. And so it's really important for us to have partners and leverage different environments like work to create impact in racial justice spaces, and have corporations understand that there's so much power and leverage that they do have because of how they spend, because of how they interact with the communities and their customers and their set of employees, that we can really make a difference. So we wanted to share that with you so that you understand what you see and how different pieces may show up in the public sphere, so that you have an opportunity to see what we're up to. So with that, I'm going to invite my friend Joyce Winnicky back to the virtual stage, and we will have a Q&A. And Joyce, can you join me again?
Here I
Awesome.
am.
Awesome. So what I'm going to do, I see that there are lots of chats happening, but I am going to, um, well, I see a couple questions. So VSA Partners is our marketing firm, but I think Fatisha already answered that. So if you don't mind typing any of your questions in the Q&A, I would greatly appreciate it. Right now, I don't see any. And I'll pop over to the chat just in case folks put questions in the chat. But it appears that my colleagues, thank you, Abby, for correcting me. The Northern Illinois Food Bank is who we've been getting our food that we are distributing at our Addison location. So thank you for that. I'm just quickly going through the comments here.
So Joy, while you do that, I just wanted to make a point. The thing that is so remarkable to me at this juncture in our nation's history is that it's heartening and just wonderful to see so many organizations and corporations coming forward with programs around racial justice and joining joining that hard work. But the thing that's just incredible about the YWCA is that we have been doing that work integrated across everything for the entire history of the organization. So it really puts us in a position like we could not have imagined to have an even greater impact. And I say opportunity, but also truly a responsibility, because we are so well positioned and we have so much experience and credibility and authority in this space. So I'm delighted to see that. I'm glad you spent some time on DSA. They are incredibly talented and also very generous with their creativity. But that's a really remarkable way to frame the work that's already been going on. I see people coming out with new initiatives and new campaigns, and what I think this campaign does is simply frame the work that's been going on for so long.
Absolutely, Joyce, and I appreciate that recognition. So I do see a question that's been sent directly to us. One is that how can someone become a Racial Justice League member? And so my bad for that's the one thing, you know, about being virtual. No one can kick you when you make mistakes. And so, but just wanted to highlight that you can take the pledge to advance racial justice, and then make a donation to support the YWCA. As Joyce said, this for us, and I make it clear, this is not a money grab. This is supporting the work that you mentioned, Joyce, that we've been doing for some time, and to remind people that it is the work that we're doing that actually does impact the issue of race. And so we want to make sure that we can continue to support that work. So that's why those funds are important to us. And then the last piece is to commit to specific tangible action that you can do, as I mentioned, the platforms people have as individuals or corporations or organizations to move the needle as it relates to advancing racial justice. So thank you for that question, and wanted to take a step back and share that how you become.
Well, that's perfect. And let me add to that too, Dory. I just as Congressman Lewis said in his remarks that were published today, we all need to stand up. Now is the time. Stand up for what we truly believe. And what I like about this is that we're giving people very specific tools and ways to do that. Of course, financial support is a wonderful thing because it helps with the growth and it helps the Y increase its range and its impact. But but just truly bringing together, bringing together people to make the commitment and giving them tools and ways to address problems in their workplaces, or in their kids' schools, I think is an important contribution that we're making to this this point in history.
Absolutely. And I see a couple of questions coming in. One is, what can board members do to support regarding the Until Justice Just Is campaign? What can board members do to support the campaign?
Well, certainly take the pledge. And beyond that, I think it's not board members specifically, of course, but others too. Think about what services the YWCA offers and whether those can be helpful in advancing understanding and dialogue in whatever organizations you're involved in, whether your workplace, your church, your PTA, your book club, and partner with us on those. And the other really important thing is that, I mean, we all have huge networks. Help get the word out. Simply ask your friends, look, this is something I know you believe in also. Just take the pledge. Look at these resources. Just take the pledge. And I'm seeing in the chat a really good question about what exactly YWCA membership is, and I think that's a good thing for people to understand too. It's very easy to become an official, which is separate, I think, from taking this pledge, but to become a member of the YWCA, it's a simple, at the lowest level, $25 fee, I believe, but that's always, I think, something that we don't sometimes talk enough. I feel like I don't talk enough about that in my circles.
And to that point, Joyce, one of the things that we've done is made the membership tied directly to the Racial Justice League. And so those who become members during this time are also going to be members of the Racial Justice League, because again, this is our mission. And so we just want to make sure that people are participating and getting involved. I see a couple questions, one around the feedback on the campaign, and qualified by saying amazing campaign. This campaign is amazing. And again, shout out to our partners at VSA Partners for all of their support and work on this. The feedback has been tremendous, and but we want to make sure that people understand that it is more than a campaign for us. It really is how we are communicating to the world that we are in this, and that we are in this to end it, and that they can absolutely partner with us to do that. And so the feedback has been highly positive. I wanted to take the time to read the members of the league so far, because to give you an example of just how diversified the members of the league are. And we are really looking forward to the convenings and the conversations that we'll be able to pull together to get different people's opinion and perspective around what we can be doing together and within our own organizations to advance racial justice. Then the other question, and Joyce, I'll speak to part of this, and I would love you to speak to a piece of this as well. Another question we received is how we have evolved the work from a staff and board perspective to support the YWCA in its transformation to a social enterprise. You mentioned our 186% growth. I can tell you from a staff perspective, what we have done is really lean in and understand just the comprehensive nature of our work and how we can leverage that in the marketplace in different ways. So that has been part of what the staff has done. So whether it is how we come up with the Tiny Boots program, for an example, to make sure that veterans had access to childcare, or how we've engaged in the census, those type of opportunities that we've seen a need and then look to address that need is absolutely how the staff has absolutely leaned into ensuring not only that we're a social enterprise, but that we are providing the services that people need at the time they need them. And Joyce, can you talk to, from a board perspective, what that has looked like as well?
Yes, I will. But first, let me say something about the team. And one thing that I think that has been crucial, and it's been just fascinating and gratifying to watch from the perch of the board, is just the quality of the staff. It just such incredible professionals who are savvy and smart and dedicated and passionate, and those words might sound a little bit alike, but they're all different. And a culture that has come to really value and celebrate innovation. And I believe that's been a really important, and I see that in the work that Shelley's done in childcare, and I see that in our merger with Streetwise, and it's not just looking for opportunity. It's understanding that that sometimes we're going to do it first. We're going to do things that nobody else has done, and it's a little scary. Right? So that's also where the board has been extremely important, providing, understanding that evolution and looking at the operation through a different lens and being willing to do the work to understand and support the staff as they've gone through these changes. I think that we've worked harder as a board to to recognize and leverage all of the assets and relationships in our own networks, and figure out how those can be partnerships for the why. And I always say market driven, and that we've evolved to market driven. And in my mind, that means that we see what opportunities are out there that allow us to leverage the core capabilities of the why. That doesn't mean that we are not going to continue to provide the crucial services that are never going to, perhaps never going to break even, never going to pay for themselves. But in fact, we want those market-driven opportunities to allow us to continue that really hard work. And with so many organizations, other organizations under extreme pressure, it's even more important that we are doing that.
Absolutely, Joyce. And I actually see a couple questions in our Q&A box here. Hi, Amita. Amita is asking, is there an overlap between the Racial Justice League and the YWCA social enterprise efforts? And I think partially the answer would be yes. And the reason is, I think, is partially what Joyce responded. So when we talk about social enterprise, we're not talking about a specific social venture. Often when you have nonprofits like us that say they have a social enterprise, people see it as a separate venture. In our case, we are a social enterprise because, as Joyce described, we are looking at market-driven opportunities and leveraging our capability to optimize and co-create value and capture that value. And I'm so sorry if I sound like an MBA degree on steroids right now, but that is the point for us. So when we talk about the Racial Justice League, how we consider that a part in our activity there as part of our social enterprise orientation is that there was a need in the moment. So it was more than us. It was more than us just doing one thing. It was about how do we create something that can have a sustainable structure like the league that we can leverage to create change in this moment. So that's the social enterprise mindset that we use to create the Racial Justice League, because you saw, just like we saw, the increase in donations relative to people wanting to commit resources to this work. And we were like, that's amazing, but we need to commit those resources in ways to actually create change. And so the Racial Justice League, with the campaign of Until Justice Just Is, was a roadmap for us to be able to do that, or is a roadmap for us to be able to do that. So when we see the connectivity between that as a social enterprise, that's what we're trying to achieve. So it isn't that the Racial Justice League can be in itself a social venture. It is because we think about the impact in the marketplace that we can have and what are the sort of forces that we can leverage given our set of competencies. That's what the Racial Justice League is. And so thank you for that question. And thank you, Joyce, for continuously to give us the words to describe what we're up to as well.
Well, let me just point out that neither of us have yet said nonprofit is a tax status. It is not a business model. So
Absolutely.
I can't believe that we're an hour into this and
Yes.
we haven't uttered those words. So now would be
that's our t-shirt.
a good time to say that. So here's another question that I'm going to read and offer an answer to. To what do you attribute YWCA Metropolitan Chicago's consistent growth and its ability to be increasingly innovative across so many sectors, a very agile organization? So I will say that I will attribute that to Dory's energy, passion, and inability to walk away from any challenge. It's a fearlessness, and part of what she has been able to do. So because she's amazing, but obviously is not a one-woman show. But she truly has built an incredible leadership team, and that leadership team is so good that they have developed incredible teams under them. So I believe it's a workplace culture thing. So.
And well, thank you for that, Joyce. I appreciate that. But I do think leadership matters, right? And so I'm grateful that I had a background that came out of management consulting that allows us to understand marketplace forces and what's happening and how businesses and the different roles that we can play. And to me, this is the big consulting job, is how do we eliminate racism and empower women? And so from our perspective, you do that though by creating, to your point, Joyce, a highly competent organization and a culture that supports those within it. And so I attribute all of our growth and success to our people. They are absolutely our secret sauce and the magic formula that my job is to create an environment for them to thrive and be successful. And quite frankly, we talk about if we eliminate racism and empower women, that we will have created an inclusive marketplace where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. And I see our organization as a subset of that. So our goal is to create an inclusive environment where everyone has the opportunity to thrive within the YWCA. And I think that because of that, that has opened up so much innovation for us, because I don't see the problems on a day-to-day basis, but our people do. And the agility and the learning that they have to say, we not only need to do home visiting. When we go into homes where there are young children, we also need to do infant mental health. That's coming from them. They recognize the needs that are in the community because of what they do. And my job is to say, yes, let's figure out how we support infant mental health and go get the dollars for that, right? Or go connect the dots so that people understand in the marketplace why it's important that a child develops on target, right? And so that's, I think, part of our growth formula and the way that we have been able to go across different sectors. As Shelley mentioned, we've been able to attract such great leaders that understand what we're up to and have absolutely leaned into participating in that. We talk about in this next question that change can be hard, but we're managing change. What's the secret to doing this for such a large team? I would say that we agree change is hard. But just because it's hard doesn't mean we shouldn't do it, right? And so what we've done is that, one, we have, again, I think leadership matters. We've managed change on a lot of different fronts, but really leaning into the leadership in the organization to make that happen. Joyce, what are your thoughts?
And so I'm going to say key to that is communication. Key to that is being very clear about what the mission and strategy is, and using the same language over and over. And so I think that's been crucial, not only in throughout the community and raising the organization's profile and credibility as this change has happened, but within the organization, making certain that the reason people who are out, the team members who are out in those homes and can connect the dots and come back with that, it's because they understand the mission and the strategy, and they understand that the need and expectation is to solve the big problems. And so I believe it's always in any organization, any business, it's crucial for everybody on the team to understand where the organization is going and how their role fits into that. And I believe that I've seen that happen in the YWCA over the past few years.
Thank you for that, Joyce. And we have a shout out that thank you, Mercedes Garcia, our new board member from MasterCard and out of New York, for agreeing that we have an absolutely rock star team. And I'm so grateful. But I'll also speak to one of the questions when I'm thinking about the sectors and our ability to grow. It is because of our board members as well, because the things that we do would not be possible without the support and challenge and questions and partnership with our board members. Mercedes has specifically introduced us to one of the concepts that you'll hear about in a couple minutes as we talk about what's next for the YWCA. But it's really important that our board, and with your leadership, Joyce, has leaned into what it means for us to be a social enterprise and has supported that. So as we talk about us being able to get into so many different sectors, we have, of a 65-person board, while that sounds large, I see it as a group of experts that we have at our fingertips that are willing to lean in and help us understand the different sectors. I mean, because our board, Joyce mentioned the leadership of Harul Paul from our nominating committee that helped us get the right skills and the right industries represented on our board. So as we look into working and partnering in different sectors, we quite possibly have someone on our board that we could tap into to evolve that piece.
And then if you look at the other committee chairs, I mean, the expertise we have in Kim McGarry overseeing the finance committee, and Anime Trala at the M&A committee, and Ann Cheeseman in the audit committee, and Kathy and Pack and Christine Fury in development. I think that we are that we've worked hard on the board side, parallel to the staff organization, being very intentional and thoughtful about who's best to move us forward along with the staff organization. I'm just trying to think who I forgot to mention. John Head, of course, and Diane Randolph. So there's so many, Aletha Noonan. So I wish I could mention every single board member and their significant contributions.
Yeah, we are very fortunate. So with that, Joyce, I don't see any additional questions, and I know we have a couple more items to wrap up before we let people enjoy their pre-Friday. So let's see. So Joyce, please stay on with me as we wrap up here. So what's next for the YWCA in fiscal year 2021? So our Respect card, you see a picture, VSA designed our Respect logo. So VSA partners, again, shout out to you. But we're, again, leaning into the moment. The consumer finance side, we'll be getting into that with our Respect card and offering our Respect card, debit card and gift card as the first place we'll be starting. So that will be launching soon. And again, it's important, and we've seen during the pandemic, that everyone has access to electronic payments. So we're grateful again to Mercedes Garcia at MasterCard, who worked with us to introduce us to Mobility Capital Finance, MoCaFi, to get this product in the market. This is going to be another game changer for the YWCA, and so we're thrilled. This has probably been about a year, if not 2 years in the making. Again, because we are thoughtful around what we put out there and how we do it. So we're grateful that the Respect card will definitely be a positive market force to support the folks in the marketplace, as well as be a resource for the YWCA. Workforce development, as we sit in this moment, as 50% of Black American adults are unemployed, we will continue to lean into the great workforce development efforts. We're fortunate to have some great new additions in this space to join the already highly capable team that we've had during our workforce development work. So we're thrilled that we will see more of that, and accompanying that, some innovative finance solutions to actually get this work done. So more to come on that. I mentioned our Empowerment Collaborative earlier. We definitely look forward to partnering with those organizations that we can definitely leverage and that align with our mission, so that we can accelerate the pace of change. So more to come on that. Growth, expansion, and innovation, that's our middle name right now. So we absolutely will look to continue to grow. And yes, during this time, we know that resources will be challenging, but we also know the level of need that's out there, and the issues that we work to address every day have not gone away and are exasperated. So we know that we need to grow and expand and innovate to accelerate the pace of change. And on the legislative front, our legislators are busy, and we have to be as well. We have to understand what's happening and how we can support and inform our legislators to make sure that we get policies that support us and not work against us. And to that end, we will absolutely be hearing and seeing more from the YWCA. So make sure you follow us across all of our social platforms so that we can make sure that we keep you informed and you really stay up to date around what we're doing and how we're doing it. And lastly, I got my clicks ahead of me here. Lastly, I want to talk about our leader luncheon. I know that so many of you that are supporters of the YWCA and know about our amazing leader luncheon. So as you could, no surprise that it will be held virtually this year, and it will be on Thursday, November 19th from noon to 1:30. And the theme this year is Progress, Power, and Possibilities. As we are celebrating the centennial anniversary of women's suffrage, I know that all that's gone on in 2020, we kind of forgot about that, right? But we haven't at the YWCA. There's just been a few things that have preoccupied us at the moment, but we cannot forget that we sit in the 100th year of women being able to vote. And so what does it look like for us to continue to advance women and people of color in the next 100 years? I say this to our team all the time. This is our moment. I want the women in 2120 to look back, and women and people of color, to look back and say, those women in 2020, those women and men, because all of us are needed, that those people in 2020 got it right. They focused on the right things. They challenged the right policies. They put together the right partnerships. They did everything that it took to create the better world that we're experiencing in 2120. That is what I want to see happen. That's what I want to be our epitaph, quite frankly. And so as we look to celebrate women and people of color, recognizing that while the women's suffrage movement gave women the right to vote, that it was another 50 years before people of color got the right to vote. And so we need to continue to focus on the Voting Rights Act. And again, I'm just so mindful of the moment we sit in today with the passing and the honoring of John Lewis around how important and significant that this is for us. And so we want to make sure that we honor the progress that we've made and recognize that we are fully empowered today to make the changes necessary. And it just takes the will and the force for us to do it. And so we're excited about the confirmed honorees already, with Helene Gale, the president and CEO of the Chicago Community Trust, being our racial justice honoree, Laura Ricketts, of the co-owner of the Chicago Cubs, being our business honoree. And for the first time ever, that we have a corporation that we're recognizing, and McDonald's Corporation, as our corporate social innovation award winners. So we're thrilled about that. This year only, we're excited that as you become a part of the Racial Justice League, as a corporate ally, you can automatically receive Leader Luncheon sponsorship as part of your participation. So you can see what's included in that by visiting our website, untiljusticejustice.org. And learning what that means, as well as going to our website, the ywcachicago.org, to learn more about what we're doing and the activities that will unfold for Leader Luncheon. So I know you see all of the websites there. And of course, becoming a member is also something that we want to do, and will have benefits relative to Leader Luncheon. So Joyce, I want to share one more thing before we say farewell, and we will go off screen. Any last words you want to share before we share this powerful piece put together for us as a reminder of what's at stake in 2020 for us to move forward?
I want to say, just quickly, thank you for everyone who's with us today. My hats off to the YWCA team. I think you're fantastic, and thank you to my fellow board members too. And please know, for everyone, if I can help you in any way, let me know. I'm easy to find.
Great. Well, thank you, Joyce. And I'll do one more reminder. Thank you, Molly, that all members of the YWCA and the Racial Justice League members will have access to the virtual Leader Luncheon. So make sure you become a member at untiljusticejustice.org. And again, I'm so grateful for everyone on this call, and want to share the powerful pledge video that we have from our Racial Justice League. So what we will do, Joyce, you and I will go off screen, and I am then going to start our video so that you all can see just the power of our Racial Justice League and the Until Justice Just Is campaign.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal and born with certain inalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But all too often, I'm sure we could agree, that truth is forgotten. All too often, those rights are ignored, as all too many stand in silence, while all too many suffer alone. That's why we pledge to come together, and while we promise to act for good. How long, you may ask? Until the land of the free is free of racism. Until the home of the brave is brave enough to change. Until by the people and for the people means doing right by all people. Until justice. Until justice just is.
Thank you all for joining us. Have a good rest of the evening.